Hi, my name is Madibu Mutabi and I intend to bring to you these kinds of videos every single day. Like, share and subscribe.
Introduction: A Parent's Guide to Sex Education. Forward. In the recent year, sex scenario conversations are considered as one of the most common topics between parents and the child. If you are planning to talk with your child about sex, there are a lot of factors that you should take into account. Before talking to your child about sex, it is very imperative that you have an apparent and superior understanding about the real world of sex scenario conversations. In line with this, it is also important that you are aware and familiar with the birds and the bees with your child. If you are one of those parents who want to talk with the child about sex, it is very important to consider several factors that will greatly help you to come up with the best possible results. When you hear the term sex scenario conversations, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Talking with your child about sex is not an easy task at all, since it requires time, effort, and extensive research. To make sure that you will do it correctly. In connection with this, you also need to bear in mind the importance of discussing the birds and the bees with your child. By doing this, you can be sure that your child will have a better understanding about this matter. At the early ages of your child, it is very imperative that you discuss this matter to them. All the valuable information that you need about having this discussion is within this book. Just read on and make sure to pay attention to the information, because it will likely make things much easier for you. Chapter 1. Sex Talk Basics. Synopsis. Talking with your child about sex can be awkward, especially to those parents with children around preschool and puberty age. As a parent, it is very important that you are aware of the difficult discussions that you will have to tackle with your child. By learning all of the proper responses to possible questions your child might have, you will greatly increase the chance of having a successful discussion. As stated before, this may be a difficult discussion, with embarrassment on both sides, but it is necessary. In order for you to be familiar with sex talk basics, here are some of the guidelines that you should follow before talking with your child about sexual education. Guidelines for talking with your child about sexual education. Before talking with your child about sex, there are several guidelines that you should take into consideration. As a parent, it is very important that you follow these guidelines, especially when you are planning to talk with your child about sex. Talking to your preschool child. You need to start talking with your child about sex during toddlerhood ages. It is a fact that babies are interested in body name parts. If you notice that they touch the genitals, the first thing that you should do is to teach them about the right and wrong place for this, especially about public places. You are recommended to use the appropriate terminology such as vagina and penis. By doing this, you can help your child to fully understand their own bodies and at the same time decrease any sense of confusion and shame. Talking about sex education to 5 to 8-year-olds. During this age, most children become curious about the childbirth. In this stage, girls are also starting menstruation, and there are some who experience puberty as young as 8. As a parent, you need to prepare your child during this stage in advance. You can also talk to your child about the opposite sex and be relaxed, since it is part of natural development. Reading stories is considered to be the best way to talk about relationships and feelings. Explanations can also be set in the context of your own value system. Talking about sex to 8 to 12-year-olds. Around 8 to 12 years of age, children start to enter puberty. Boys must be informed about nocturnal emissions and erections, and girls must also be aware about menstruation. You need to inform them about this matter, since it is part of growing up. During this age, children become more conscious of their own bodies, and at the same time you will notice that they have friends who are starting to become sexually mature. This is also the time that they chat with their friends about sex, and this is one of the reasons why you need to give your child accurate information about puberty. You can also ask your child about what they know and correct their misinformation. Talking to teenagers around the age of 13 about sex. During this stage, they have already reached the puberty period. At this point of time, your child must be aware about the correct language and at the same time the basics about bodies and sex. You also need to make sure that you maintain two-way dialogue with your child and alert him about the risks of sexually transmitted diseases. As a parent, you also need to be ready for the matter of pornography, since teens will usually view porn online. Before talking with your child about this matter, it is very important that you have your own opinions about sex and the subject of pornography. This is also the best time to talk with your child about love and relationships. It is a fact that love and relationships are an extremely important matter to discuss with your child. By doing this, you will know the emotional maturity of your child, and this will guide you with your discussion. Be ready to answer the questions, especially when your child asks you about sex, marriage, and contraception. Masturbation is a natural and healthy thing, however, you need to fully explain with your child that this matter is private. According to researchers, masturbation is a natural and safe way to relieve your strong sexual feelings without the risks of pregnancy and sexual transmitted diseases. Talking with your child about sex is a running discussion since it can happen over the years, particularly when your child asks you questions about sex and love. It is very important to develop a strong rapport with your child since this will allow them to approach you, especially when something goes wrong. Chapter 2. Choosing the right time to talk to your child. Synopsis. Most parents are concerned about the child, especially when they start to ask questions about sex. As a concerned parent, it is very important that you know the right time to speak to your child about this matter. At the early age of your child, it is very imperative that they have an idea about the real world of sex. In line with this, you also need to make sure that you have enough source of information, especially when it comes to sex. In this way, you can be sure that your child will have a clear and better understanding about sex. Here, you will learn some of the sources that will greatly help you to obtain proper knowledge about sex. With the help of these sources, it will be easier for you to discuss the birds and the bees with your child. The best sources to gain sexual knowledge. Today, there are a lot of great sources that will help you to gain sexual knowledge. If you are planning to talk with your child about sex, the first thing that you should do is gather accurate and precise information and details about sex. The media. Most teens and children in the present year are bombarded with sexual content and sexual images in movies, radio, television, and magazines. According to studies, media messages from television are considered as the first introduction to the real world of sex. Instead of knowing and learning the significance of being responsible about sex, most teens and children receive mixed messages from romanticized and sexualized characters that are being portrayed in the media. As a parent, it is very important that you talk to them about the things that they see in the media. Media is all around, and this is one of the reasons why it is impossible to block it out. The best way to talk with your child about sex is to join them while they are watching television and at the same time tackle some of the sex scenarios that they encounter. You can also point out some of the advertisements and explain to them the messages that the advertisements want to convey to their viewers. However, you also need to bear in mind that media is not just limited to television. In the recent year, internet has drastically grown as part of the entertainment world, and this is recognized as one of the important sources of media that most people view every single day. In connection with this, there are also video games that have sexual themes, and this is one of the important things that you need to explain with your child. Furthermore, you can also make use of online resources that will help you to teach your child about the sexuality. You can also guide them while they are using the computers and browse some of the sex education websites that are widely available today. One great example of online media that your child will encounter is the world of pornography. You must explain to your child that watching pornography is a normal habit, especially for adolescent boys. However, you must also discuss with them that pornography has the ability to create expectations about the real world of sex that are usually unrealistic, particularly when it comes to the behavior, desires, and appearance of women. You should also point out that emotional intimacy is a great part of sex. Sexuality is a new part of your child's life that they can learn from and explore, but you should also guide them to avoid sexual activities at their early ages. Peers. Teens and children talk with the peers about sex to gain emotional support. However, peers give inaccurate information about sexuality. Most of the peer groups spread false myths about sex, and this is one of the important matters that you should be aware of. Sexual conversations with teens and adolescents will likely center on ways to prevent pregnancy, having multiple sexual partners, and sexual conquests. These conversations can also involve passing or teasing judgments about sexual attitudes and behaviors that can lead to negative and serious behaviors. School educators. Not all universities or schools teach about sex or sexuality. There are also schools that offer sex education courses. However, they don't provide the students with complete sexual education. In line with this, there are also school educators that present clinical information about sex, however, they don't tackle the emotional issues. According to researchers, there are some adolescents who are not satisfied with the teaching of the schools about sex since it does not discuss the realistic side of sex that involves feelings and expressions. However, there are few schools that provide more guidance about communicating sexual desires and relationship issues. Choosing the right time to talk with your child about sex is extremely important. With the help of these awesome sources, you can gain more knowledge of how to start your conversation with your child about sex. Discussing sex and other issues with your child is uncomfortable. However, you need to bear in mind that as your child is growing up, it is very important that they are aware and familiar with this matter to make sure that they can prevent the occurrence of unexpected situations like being pregnant and having their own family at an early age. Chapter 3. Use age-appropriate books. Synopsis. In the recent years, there has been a wide variety of sex education books that have become available online. Talking with your child about sex is an awkward topic. However, with the existence of age-appropriate books about sex, talking with your child about sex can be accomplished with minimal embarrassment. As your child is growing up, it is normal that they will ask questions about sex and they deserve to have accurate answers. According to studies, age-appropriate books will serve as the starting point for conversations relating to sex with your child. Books are also considered as a safety net if the conversation totally fails. The following are some benefits for reading age-appropriate books that are creatively designed and intended for your child. The perks in reading age-appropriate books. If you really want to discuss the birds and the bees with your child, the first thing that you should consider doing is to read some of the age-appropriate books that are designed to help you discuss the birds and the bees with your child. If you are one of those parents who are searching for the best age-appropriate books for your child, you don't need to worry since they are widely available in the present year. With the help of these books, your child will have a superior understanding about the things that they want to know about the real world of sex. Talking with your child about sexuality and sex is quite uncomfortable at first. However, it will get better and easier with practice and time. Most of the age-appropriate books about sex are designed for various ages, and this is one of the reasons why you can easily choose the best books that suits to the age of your child. When your child reads these age-appropriate books about sex, you can be sure that they will learn a lot of things, and at the same time most of the questions about sex will get accurate and truthful answers. There are various ways to start the conversation with your child about sex, and with the presence of these books, you can easily and quickly explain and guide them in this matter. Most teens consider their parents as the biggest influence, especially when it comes to the decisions about sex. Those teens who have good conversations with the parents and read age-appropriate books are more likely to delay the sexual activity, use contraceptives like condoms, and have fewer partners. As a parent, it is your responsibility to guide and deal with your child regarding sexuality and sex. When you hear the term sexuality, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Sexuality includes various topics that include female and male bodies, how they work, kinds of relationships, reproduction, and human development, how to avoid sexual transmitted diseases and pregnancy, and sexual behavior. It is fact that talking and discussing the birds and bees with your child is not easy, but with the presence of age-appropriate books, you can explain the important things that they need to know about sex and sexuality. There are parents who plan to talk with the child about sex for months since they are expecting to explain everything to them all at once. However, when the talk does not go according to the plan, parents will get frustrated. Talking with your child about sexuality and sex is recognized as a lifelong conversation. It is very important to talk with your child as early as possible to avoid curiosity and confusion. When curiosity occurs, it is the best time for you to start the conversation with your child. During the talk, you will notice that you and your child will build a trusting and respectful relationship that you will enjoy. If you have young children, you should encourage them to read age-appropriate books that will help them to know the different names of The body parts. When you talk to your child about sex, it is very imperative to keep your conversation age appropriate. In this way, they can easily cope with the topic and it will be easier for them to understand the issues regarding sex and sexuality. As a parent, the best thing that you can do is be available and open. Especially when your child wants to discuss important things about sex. You can provide your child with age-appropriate books that suit with their age. With the existence of age-appropriate books, you will not have a hard time explaining the important things about sex that your child needs to know. Chapter 4. Include your own morals and values. Synopsis. If you are planning to talk with your child about sex and sexuality, it is very important to include your own morals and values. While you are discussing the birds and the bees with your child, the first thing that you should consider is to include your own morals and values. In this way, you can be sure that your child will have a clear and better understanding about this matter. You need to bear in mind that parents play a vital role in the lives of the child, and this is one of the reasons why you need to influence them with right life decisions to make sure that they will come up with the best decisions in life. Here, you will learn some of the effective and useful tips that will greatly help you in discussing the birds and the bees with your child. With the help of these tips, you can easily explain and discuss the real world of sex to your child. The effective and useful tips for talking with your child about sex. To start your conversation, you need to make sure that you have enough sources, and at the same time you need to include your own morals and values. A parent with good morals and values can greatly help the child in facing sex and sexual issues that they will encounter. Overcome your embarrassment. At first, it is very normal that you will feel uncomfortable using terms like penis and vagina. In order for you to overcome your embarrassment, you're recommended to say these words in private several times until you are comfortable enough to discuss them in a relaxed manner with your child. By doing this, you will notice that you will be more comfortable and relaxed while you are talking about sex with your child. This is considered to be one of the effective ways to easily get rid of your embarrassment. Plan for open and ongoing discussions with your child. According to researchers, teaching your child about sex and sexuality is very important, especially during their younger years. However, it is also equally important that you continue to teach them regarding this matter as they get older. Your child will be dealing with sex and sexuality for the rest of their lives, and it is impossible to cover all the important things in just one conversation. When you finally establish an open discussion and communicate with your child, just let the information flow and let the discussion take its course. Take advantage of informational situations. For example, when you and your child see a pregnant woman, or when you hear sexual incidents on the news. Such teachable moments have the ability to provide easy transitions and convert it into conversations about sexual situations. In line with this, teachable moments will help you to facilitate communication about sex, especially when your child reaches the age of maturity. Provide your child with precise information. One of the best morals and values that a parent should have is to know sex facts and gather precise information and details about sex. In the recent years, comprehensive sex information has become widely available on the internet. You can also give your child helpful books that suit their age. When your child asks you a question that you don't know the answer, you can say that you will find out the accurate answer and get back to them. Anticipate the stage of development. Telling your child about nocturnal emissions and menstruation after they experience it for a couple of months is not helpful. The first thing that you should discuss with your child is sexual experiences and stages of puberty before they reach this stage. By doing this, you will notice that your child will feel less anxious about the things that are happening to the body. Don't lecture. In the present year, children don't want to be lectured, so avoid lecturing. The best thing for you to do is to present enough information and details and have comprehensive discussions about this matter. Your child will make their own decisions about sex. However, as a parent, it is very important that you give them precise resources and information that will help them to come up with informed decisions. It is true that conversations and discussions will benefit your child better than lectures. You can also be sure that your child will listen to you and to your words. Teach him about the dangers and the joys of sex. According to studies, sex is not a bad part of life, and there is no reason for you to be scared of sex. However, there are some people who consider sex to be dangerous. In real life, sex is natural and beautiful, and this is one of the reasons why your child must be equipped with proper knowledge and a better understanding about sex. They also deserve to know what sexuality and sex is all about, and at the same time how to negotiate these roles in their lives. Talking with your child about relationships and intimacy will greatly help them to completely understand this subject matter. As a parent, you need to reach out to them as early as possible, and rest assured, your child will have a solid understanding of sex. Chapter 5. Encourage questions and open honest discussions. Synopsis. When you notice that your child is starting to be interested about sex, it is the right time for you to encourage questions and open honest discussions with your child. According to studies, sexual content is everywhere, especially if you have access to cable and internet or any type of media. There is no other way to keep you comfortable, knowledgeable, and safe about sex other than to talk about it openly. Here, you will know the importance of encouraging your child to ask questions and to have open, honest discussions. In this way, you can be sure that your child will have a clear understanding about the real world of sex. The significance of having open, honest discussions with your child. As a parent, one of your responsibilities is to have open, honest discussions with your child about sex. If you can openly discuss sexual matters with your child, sex can be less scary. Open sex talks with your child are about personal preference. Open sex talks with your child will have a positive effect on the life of your child. Healthy and open, honest discussions regarding sex will greatly help your child to be ready for the possible things that will happen in the future. When your child asks you questions about sex, you need to make sure that you will give them accurate information and details that will satisfy them. You are also recommended to conduct your own extensive research to make sure that you will provide your child with the precise information that they are looking for. Chapter 6. Explore what materials are being taught in the child's school. Synopsis. Most universities and schools in the present year offer sexual education program for the students. As a responsible parent, it is very imperative that you are aware about the materials that are being taught to your child, especially when they are in the four corners of the classroom. There are some people that hear the word sex and get uncomfortable and confused. When you notice that your child experiences this kind of situation, especially when they are in school, it is time for you to know what materials are being taught in the school. The facts about materials that are being taught in school. In the present year, most schools and universities use sex education books that are also available online and on the market. Most of the sex education books contain comprehensive guidelines that will greatly help you to obtain sexual knowledge. One of the main purposes why sex education courses are being taught in most universities and schools is to provide sexual awareness for your child. Most sex education books state that talking with your child about sex must start earlier, before they will experience sexual behaviors. In line with this, sexual education courses are creatively designed and developed to provide your child with wisdom and knowledge that they can make use of in the near future, particularly when they are ready to face the real world of sex. With the help of sex education programs and courses that are offered in universities and schools, you can be sure that your child will have a great opportunity to gain sexual orientation, safe sex, and abstinence. In connection with this, there are also sexual health services that are responsible for helping your child with the questions about sex. With the existence of these sexual health services, your child will completely and comfortably learn about the world of sex. Chapter 7. How not having the sex talk can backfire. Synopsis. In order for you to avoid backfire in sex talks, it is very important that you are familiar and aware about the comprehensive information and details about sex. At first, it is normal that you will feel uncomfortable and awkward while talking with your child about sex. However, you need to bear in mind that talking about sex with your child at their early ages can be a great help for them to avoid the occurrence of unwanted scenarios such as being pregnant and having a settled life at an early age. Sex talks with your child are highly recommended, especially when it comes to their awareness and sexual knowledge. Sex talks play a vital role in the life of your child, and as a parent, this is one of your responsibilities and you should be aware of it. A quick glimpse of a sex talk with your child. Sex talks with your child are considered to be one of the first topics that you should tackle with your children. By doing this, you can be sure that you can avoid sex talk backfires. If your child is starting to ask questions about sex, it simply means that they deserve to have accurate information that will help them to fully understand sex. If you are planning to talk with your child about sex, there are several factors that you should take into account. It is also very important that you have complete and accurate details regarding the real world of sex to make sure that you can answer all the questions of your child. Talking with your child about sex will greatly help them to know all the facts that are associated with sex. At their early age, they deserve to know the significance, joy, and danger of sex. Don't leave before you press like button below and subscribe to this channel. As a subscriber, you will receive a new notifications every time a new video is uploaded. Good luck.